What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Week 16 NFL Power Rankings. A couple pieces of housekeeping before we hop in here. A reminder, please do hit that like button if you enjoy. Easiest way to support the channel right there. If you're looking for another way to support the channel, next time you're shopping for tickets, whether it's a game or a concert, whatever it may be, head over to SeatGeek. Use promo code FranchiseGuy. You're going to get the best prices there anyway. I love the interface. It's where I buy my tickets. You'll save $20 on your first purchase and support the channel in the process. So go check that out. And then also, guys, if you want to hear me talk about football more for some reason, check out the Fully Inflated Football Podcast. I'll be uploading this week's episode this afternoon, so we'll see you over there. That's the Fully Inflated Football Podcast. Okay, starting at the bottom, we got some movement in the bottom five for whatever it's worth. So number 32, we're finally going to put the Cincinnati Bengals there. I still think from a roster standpoint, they've got some talent, not the worst roster in the NFL. Maybe that offensive line is up there, but they are certainly playing like the worst team in the NFL, and they're going to be rewarded likely with Joe Burrow. Cincinnati guy, grew up a Bengals fan. Could he be the savior that they need? Just might be. We'll find out. Number 31, the Detroit Lions just have not been competitive. Their free fall to the bottom here continues after the Stafford injury, and that defense has been what's been really disappointing. I mean, some of these other teams have rallied when their quarterback has gone down. It's been the opposite here in Detroit. That's kind of a bad sign of a bad coach to me. Matt Patricia just not making the best name for himself this year. Number 30, the New York Giants. They're going to climb up a couple spots. I did have a certain smile about me watching Giants fans celebrate Eli Manning get back to a 500 record on his career. That's first ballot, likely Hall of Fame quarterback Eli Manning with a 500 career record. Also, they lessened their chance at a higher draft pick. So a effectively meaningless win, but I do sound like a dick by saying that. I'm happy for Eli Manning to kind of go out on a positive note, assuming this is the last game of his career. So number 29, the Washington Redskins, +1. They've shown some fight the last week. Whatever, this team I think has some talent on defense. They need a coach that can come in here and get any sort of identity going. It's just a disgusting team to even analyze right now. So are the Jacksonville Jaguars. A quick plug, I am going to be launching my Jacksonville Jaguars realistic rebuild, Madden 20 style, this afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you can follow that. It's going to be one of my favorite rebuilds. We're going to move them to London, which maybe is what this team should do in real life as we return to real life here. They did go on the road, got a big win against the Raiders, and Gardner Minshew got some of that mustache magic back this week with a game-winning drive. I don't know if that's going to continue or not, but this team had looked really dead for the last month and got some energy back. Number 27, the Miami Dolphins. They lost this week. They've had some good games lately. You're splitting hairs at the bottom here. I'm going to keep them at number 27 until further notice. Number 26, they got demolished by the best team in football, the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't really fault them for it that much, especially in Baltimore on a short week. So they're going to stay put here. I just prefer them to the other teams here. And then rounding out this tier, the Carolina Panthers, now going to their third quarterback of the season, Kyle Allen. Clearly not the answer, but I don't, like I said last week, don't think it's just the quarterback mess here. I don't love this defense. I don't think this is a team that I'm personally going to have a ton of optimism heading into next year on. Maybe they have the craziest offseason imaginable, but it's just a team that I think is heading in the wrong direction, at least for now, until the owner, David Tepper, kind of reestablishes what he wants the future of this team to look like. So as we mentioned, the tier gap up here, the Denver Broncos have stayed at the top of this next tier for the better part of this entire season. Still not an easy out. They were very cold this week. Drew Lock did not, I'm talking about metaphorically speaking. They were physically cold as well. I don't think that is an excuse. But yeah, Drew Lock just looking like a rookie. He's shown some nice things. That defense is all right. This team's just kind of hanging around here. Number 23, the Cleveland Browns, going to drop down a couple spots. I personally got a laugh out of the organization standing by Freddie Kitchens, especially when they said like something along the lines of it's going to take a disaster to let him go after 1 year. Hello, Cleveland, you've been watching your season? It's been a mess. Get him out of there. He's not an NFL head coach. It's very abundantly clear. It just continues to amaze me, the incompetence of this organization. Number 22, the Arizona Cardinals. They have struggled massively over the last few weeks. So to see them look like they did in the first half of this season, when they were really rolling offensively, is big for this team. And it's a team that is going to have optimism heading into year 2 of Cliff and Kyler. So to get that going again, I think was big at the end of the season. They're going to climb up here. Number 21, the Oakland Raiders. That's the end of the Oakland Raiders there. That was the last game ever in Oakland, and wasn't the best sight. You know, the fans, frustratingly so, were pointing lasers on the field, jumping on the field after the game. So they're going to head to Vegas, and it's going to be the John Gruden show there. I think they've got some pieces. They've got a lot of work to do with that roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They could use some receiving help as well. But I kind of buy into the future of that team. I think Gruden's a pretty solid coach, and they've done a good job there. Number 20, the Indianapolis Colts were dismantled by the New Orleans Saints about an hour before this recording. Definitely an embarrassing loss. Jacoby looked a lot like a backup quarterback in this game. He's going to be an interesting decision to make this offseason. What do they do with that quarterback situation? They're only really tied to him for another year, and it's not even that big of a contract where they have to keep him as the starter. He's been a bottom-end starter, but the Colts have much higher expectations. But to me, it was this defense folding and this team really folding under the spotlight. In a week where the Titans and Steelers both lost and they could have gotten back into the playoff race, they definitely fell apart. So they still have some work to do before they're any sort of legitimate contender, but they've had a good season overall. The LA Chargers, the opposite. This team has had a disaster season. Another game where it was like 7 turnovers. It's just been enough. At this point, do you shut down Phillip Rivers? Do you just let him kind of sling it around for another 2 weeks? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But you can't bring him back next year, especially if this is going to be the offensive line or anything close to this that they roll out next year. It's a disaster. I mean, Danielle Hunter was just on a different planet compared to those tackles. I don't know. Do you go Tyrod Taylor? It's going to be rough. There's a lot of quarterbacks changing hands this offseason. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, the Chargers have the talent. It's a team that, if they make the right moves, things could fall in place, especially because they're going to have an actual stadium next year. But who knows? It's a weird team. Number 18, the Atlanta Falcons. Huge win. And, you know, a little toot here. I picked them to cover this week, said if they upset the Niners as 11-point underdogs, would not surprise me at all, because this team is, quite frankly, a playoff caliber team at the moment, even if they're so far back in the standings because of their first half of the season. This is what this team wanted to see. They wanted to see this offense get back to that top 5, top 10 type of unit. You get Julio Jones back in there, dominating like he used to. He definitely still has a year or two left in him of that, in my opinion. And then you get those rookie guards. The rookie guard and the right tackle playing at a pretty high level since they've kind of been healthy and in there. And that's what they needed to see to kind of justify some optimism for next year. But you want to talk about optimism for next year, the Tampa Bay Bucs. And I say this reluctantly because this team has burned us many times in the past. And Jameis Winston has burned many people in the past with his high volatility, which has not changed this year, but God, is he explosive this year. And to see him now do it without his receivers, it's impressive. You got to bring him back, get him in another year with Bruce Arians, and see what this offense can do. If they have another exciting offseason here, I just might be buying into this Tampa Bay Bucs team as next year's kind of wild card 10-win sleeper team, especially with some pieces on that defense that are coming together. They could have a top 20 defense, top 10 offense next year and make things really interesting. And then number 16, the Chicago Bears. You know, this team's played well in the last month. They did not play particularly well against the Packers. That pass rush didn't really show up. The Packers' offensive line was just stonewalling those Bears. And then Trubisky looked like old Trubisky this week. So for that reason, they're going to drop. But also, I think when you get officially eliminated from the playoffs, when you're a team like the Bears that has the expectations you have, you might play a little more demoralized for the final couple games of the season. And then the LA Rams pretty similar take there. They're going to drop down here. But that was just a straight-up embarrassing loss against the Dallas Cowboys. They completely folded. The offense couldn't move the ball. The defense couldn't tackle anyone. Couldn't really do anything. They looked pretty similar to several weeks ago when the Ravens dismantled them. So just this team's headed in the wrong direction. I don't see them as really a playoff team next year just because they're so cap strong and they don't have either the space to sign people, re-sign many of the people they have either, and they traded away their first-round pick for Jalen Ramsey. So with a quarterback that can't really elevate the play of those around him, I don't know how this team rallies from this. Now we do have that tier gap up to legitimate playoff teams. So the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 14, and it was a rough loss. This offense, I'm still a little bit in shock that there were Steelers fans that came on these videos and tried to tell me I was wrong in saying that their offense is just not good. Look, Duck Hodges is a fun guy. It's a great story. I'm rooting for him and all that. And this team's fun to watch. I appreciate how good this defense has been, but it's a bad offense. It's a really bad offense. Your quarterback is a backup quarterback, and these receivers make some splash plays, and I think they have a really bright future ahead of them, but they're young and just not ready to carry an offense, really carry a team like this. So they're going to come in at 14. The reality is they could actually, I don't know what the tiebreaker situation is. Maybe they still need to win one more game, but if the Titans lose out, they can still get that 6th seed for whatever it's worth. And then number 13 is the Tennessee Titans. Now, I think this team could make a little more noise, and I actually thought they played pretty well against Houston. They got some rough breaks in that first half. Really big swings. You had a blocked field goal, obviously a big swing, but even bigger than that, they had a slant that was as good as a touchdown, bounce off the receiver's chest, land in Whitney Merciless's chest, and he took it back about 90 yards. That's arguably a 14-point swing. It was a 14-point swing. So, well, you don't know what Houston would have done on their next drive, but anyway, it was a huge swing. So they got some rough breaks in that game. I thought they played pretty well. Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, that offensive line, it's an impressive offense, and we know they can play some defense. So they're more of a team that, if they can get in, could play spoiler. We just saw them play well against this Texans team, who they could be playing against the Patriots. I could see them doing it. The Patriots, to me, are a beatable football team, so they, to me, are a little more interesting than the Steelers, hence why I rank them above them. But they do have a tough path. They got to play the Saints and the Texans again, so that might not be the case. Then number 12, I do have the Philadelphia Eagles, and they have not looked perfect over the last 2 weeks. But seeing Carson Wentz play at the level he's capable of is why you're encouraged here. We know there's Carson Wentz haters out there, but I think even the biggest Carson Wentz haters, now that might not be true. There's some pretty big Wentz haters out there, but for the most part, if you are a relatively smart football fan, you know that Wentz is one of those quarterbacks that when he's on, he can carry a team. And even if he has all practice squad receivers out there, he can make those plays. And they've got the offensive line in place with Miles Sanders playing like this. They can score enough points, and then they have that defense with that pass rush. I know they've had some hiccups, but I do trust that defense to at least be solid, as long as they can just not give up those huge plays in the passing game. So I don't think they're crazy legit or anything. It's not like I have them in that Super Bowl tier. I don't think they're going to go on some crazy run, but they get the Cowboys at home this week, and it's going to be a battle. And the winner of that game, very likely to win the NFC East. And let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys, who I do rank above the Eagles, so Cowboys fans will at least be happy about that. I mean, they were really impressive, and they showed why I ranked them ahead of the Eagles last week. When this team is clicking, they just have a much higher ceiling than the Eagles because they've got it all put together on offense. I don't know if I like Dak more than Wentz, but I mean, you got better receivers, offensive line is all in place. You got those running backs who they got working this week, and then this defense as well is very well rounded. And when they're clicking, they can dominate like they did this week. And kind of like we said with Steelers Titans, I think the Cowboys are a team that could be a little scarier if they got in because they have all that talent. And the Eagles are pretty beat up right now too. But excited to see this thing play out. It's going to be one of the games of the year, I think. Then number 10, the Buffalo Bills. They go in and win the scrappy game against the Steelers that we all expected. Probably the lowest over-under I've ever seen since I've had this YouTube channel, like 35 points. And obviously that wasn't low enough. I don't mind a scrappy defensive game from two organizations like this that understand culture and defense and playing tough, disciplined football. I don't mind seeing an old school game like that now and then. I don't know if I want that to be the trend, but I actually enjoyed watching that game, despite a lot of tweets saying that was just a boring game. This team is going to be taking on New England this week. I don't know where the tiebreakers stand. If Buffalo wins that one, seems pretty unlikely that they're going to go into Foxborough and win that one, but I could see it happening if they got a big pick six or something. How good is Tre'Davious White, by the way? So I like this Bills team. Still going to keep them outside of the Super Bowl contending tier. Fact of the matter is, you don't get to play the Steelers offense every week, and as good as this defense is, it's still an offense that I don't trust to go up against the big boys on a consistent basis. So now let's get into that top tier, the Super Bowl caliber tier, which has a team that's maybe its own tier within a tier here with the Houston Texans. They just have more problems than every other team in the top 9 here. Some of it's injury related, some of it's just depth related. I don't love that defense, but when this offense is clicking, it is incredibly difficult to defend, as we saw the Patriots defense, one of the best in the league, struggle with it. So could I see them getting incredibly hot and going on a just miraculous Super Bowl run? Yeah, but it's pretty unlikely. But the Texans coming in here at number 9 after winning another big game. I mean, this team has beaten some of the best teams in the league this year, so you do have to give them some credit for that. It's just a matter of putting it all together for multiple weeks in a row. So then number 8, the New England Patriots staying put here. Another week, another win for the New England Patriots. It was against the Bengals, but they're trying to figure out this offense. It didn't really happen this week. They ended up putting up the points, but it basically came down to more turnovers and Stephon Gilmore going off and a really fluky forced fumble on a punt before half. Looked to me like he got his hand in there early, but anyway, this team continues to find ways to win, and that's how they're going to have to win a Super Bowl this year, which obviously I can imagine the Patriots doing it, but at this point in the season, you know, we've had this whole, the Patriots offense will figure it out thing for like 5 years, and they have figured it out by late November. We're sitting here week 16, and it's just not happening. These receivers aren't going to magically learn how to get open. Tom Brady's not going to all of a sudden become a mobile quarterback and start firing rockets all over the field. It's just not happening. It's just not a good offense. But this defense is special, and their coach is obviously very special as well. Number 7, the Vikings, just rocking the Chargers this week. They're going to host the Packers this week. Actually, not for the division. The Packers can lose and still just beat Detroit the next week and still win the NFC North, but you know that Vikings team is going to look at that like a playoff game. And then the Packers at number 6. I was impressed by this team until about the end of the third quarter. I thought the offense looked very sharp. I was getting ready to tweet that if Rodgers can play this decisive and be throwing the ball this accurately, that the NFC can, kind of look out for this team a little more. Because the offense has been pretty average this year, and this pass rush looked awesome this week. They getting Rashawn Gary going a little bit, but then yet again they stalled late in this game. Drops continue to plague this team. Rodgers holding on to the ball. In these games, I will say I think he's just trying not to make that big mistake as he has leads late in games, and it's working. They are beating teams, but they're against like the Broncos, the Redskins, the Bears. Does that work against Drew Brees if you have a 2-score lead in the third quarter and you keep giving them the ball back? Probably not. So I still think that that's something that they need to prove that they can do before you look at them as a Super Bowl team. Maybe they get that opportunity against the Vikings this week. Then number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. They climbed to the 1 seed in the NFC. I obviously don't picture them as the best team in the NFC. To me, it's a fairly predictable team. I think that them only beating the Panthers by 6 backs up everything that myself and a lot of people have said about them. That they can beat anyone and really lose to almost anyone. They're not going to blow a lot of teams out. They rely on Russell Wilson kind of putting the team on his back, making some magic happen, and this defense straight up is not that good. So I think that they would obviously benefit from getting that 1 seed, but even if they did, I would not see them as favorites in the NFC. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs, continuing to just be under the radar. And now at number 4, it's a little more commonplace. I had them here at number 4, 3-4 weeks ago, and just got blasted on this channel for it. I mean, they're getting healthy and rolling right now. And this defense, a lot of people were ripping this defense about 3 weeks ago, and they're showing that, hey, they can actually stop some people. And it's not like they got to be, the 2015 Broncos out there. They just got to slow guys down, play situational defense. And they've been more than that lately, but they clearly can play situational defense. So I like this Chiefs team a lot. I'm going to stand by them to win the Super Bowl. Number 3, the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. 29 of 30 against a good Colts defense on Monday Night Football. And he's doing it with, Michael Thomas, who's possibly the best receiver in the NFL right now. Right there with Nuke, I think. It's hard to say because Hopkins doesn't quite get force-fed like Michael Thomas does. It's hard to say that Hopkins wouldn't produce like that if he was. But regardless, he's making Jared Cook look like an elite tight end. He's throwing to his third-string quarterback over the middle of the field. Like it's just beautiful what Drew Brees is doing right now. The precision and anticipation and accuracy and really arm talent that he's showing out there. It's really hard to defend. Now, they need some help. They're currently the 3 seed in the NFC, and they might be the second best team. So for them to have to, play a first-round game against a talented team in the first round of the playoffs, like a Vikings or Seahawks or even the Niners, and then have to go to Lambeau would really hurt this team's Super Bowl chances. But this team's obviously rolling right now, and no one wants to go to the Dome. But they might not get a whole lot of games in the Dome, which is going to hurt their Super Bowl chances. But this team is rocking right now. And then the team that they just lost to the week before, the San Francisco 49ers, people are going to want them to drop. But that's just how this works. People are going to very quickly forget that this team just went into New Orleans and won, and they dismantled the Packers a few weeks ago. So this team is still incredible. Every team really in the top here, especially in the NFC, has had that stinker of a game. And every time we didn't lower them for it, you're allowed to kind of have rough weeks in the NFL. It's unfortunate timing for the Niners, but they hadn't really had that game yet. So until they lose to a bad team 2 weeks in a row, I'm not going to move them. They've shown enough to me in the last month of the season to know that they are a dominant football team. And then number 1, the Baltimore Ravens, staying put, just obliterated the Jets. Lamar is just unstoppable right now. I will say it was another week of Jets defenders just standing there watching the read option. I'm excited to see in the playoffs how teams approach this, because you got to tell these guys to just crash down on Lamar and don't let him break you down and run around you. You're letting the Ravens do exactly what they want you to do in that situation. So interested to see how teams start playing that. If that read option gets contained, I think the Ravens are still a very, very scary football team, but I don't know if they're the best team in the NFL without that sort of read option running game. But right now, no one's shown the ability to take it away, so I can't just assume it'll happen. So for the 3rd week in a row, no movement in the top 9. You could make a case that that's just confirmation bias. Let me know if you think that's the correct order of the top 9. Personally, I think we've kind of narrowed these guys down. I think we've got a pretty good grasp on where these teams should be as we head into the playoffs. I'm starting to get really excited for my playoff prediction video. So again, subscribe, turn on notifications so you can get my full playoff predictions. And that's the video. Again, please hit that like button. Cheers as always, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace out.